Okay, so let me begin. Okay. So I'll just start off with the salutation. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Homage to the Blessed One, the Worthy One, the fully enlightened one. Okay, so I want to begin this session with three short practices, three sequential practices. And one of them will be a bit similar to one of the practices introduced in the afternoon by our venerables from Shravasti Abbey. So this is a practice, since we're starting the new year, more or less, and we want to begin with a clean slate, so to speak. So one way to do this is a practice which is especially emphasized strongly in the Chinese Buddhist tradition. It's called repentance for one's karmic obstructions or for one's past karmic misdeeds. And this is not done to inflict or impose a guilt complex upon oneself, but it's a way of sort of cleaning out the mind, clearing out the mind of all misgivings, remorse, regrets for one's past transgressions. And so we can do this by joining the palms together and imagining that we are sitting, kneeling in the presence of the Buddha and even the Buddhas of the 10 directions in front of us, our present Buddha, Gautama Buddha or Shakyamuni, throughout all of the directions, many, many Buddhas looking down at us with hearts of great compassion and understanding. Each one may be surrounded by an entourage of great compassionate bodhisattvas, arahat disciples, great Shravakas. And so before all of them, we can bring to mind all of the the wrong deeds that we might have done over this past year, over the past years, towards everybody within our sphere of influence. You can think, if you are married, how you might have hurt your partner by way of bodily deed, speech, or thoughts. Children might think of the ways they might have hurt their parents, parents, the way they might have excessively scolded or abused their children, the ways you might have mistreated your friends, colleagues, neighbors. And then you think of all of these misdeeds, and you sort of open them up in front of the vast community of Buddhas and confess them and reveal them. And you don't, as I said, you don't inflict a sense of guilt upon yourself, but you're making yourself open and vulnerable and recognizing your faults, your shortcomings, and just seeking forgiveness from all those that one might have offended. And just do this silently, just for a couple of minutes. Then we reflect, whatever wrong deeds I might have done to all of you, my loved ones, my neighbors, even those barely known by me, unknown by me, whatever misdeeds I might have done by way of body, speech, or thought, I hereby repent it all. And even more widely, whatever misdeeds I might have done against anyone in the course of this life, even from my childhood up to the present, in school, towards my teachers, my fellow students, at work, to my employers and colleagues at work, in the monasteries, towards my fellow monastics, or my students, or my teachers. I hereby repent it all. And just let that sense of opening up and spilling out all of that regret and remorse come out into the open, and feel the mind becoming clearer and brighter. And then we reflect that through the course of this beginningless samsara, in so many countless lives, we might have injured, hurt, damaged so many other beings. And so we reflect in the course of this beginningless round of birth and death, whatever unwholesome deeds I might have committed against others on account of beginningless greed, hatred, and delusion, and all their other subsidiary defilements, deeds expressed by way of body, speech, or thought, I hereby repent it all. Please, may the Buddhas of the 10 directions, all the compassionate bodhisattvas, arhats, and great disciples looking down at me with their great compassion, patience, and forgiveness. May they recognize that I acknowledge these faults and that I determine to correct myself in the future. Okay, now that we've cleared our minds and our hearts from the stains of our past misdeeds, now we're going to suffuse them with bright and positive energy by rejoicing in the good qualities and virtues of others. This is called, in Pali, we would call it punyanumodana, rejoicing in the merits of others. In Chinese, they call it gongde sui xi. So we could start off by thinking, again, bringing to mind the Buddhas who have, over countless lives, accumulated the inconceivable store of merits and virtues of wisdom. And we rejoice in their achievement of the supreme enlightenment. And then we can think of the great bodhisattvas headed by Maitreya or Maitreya, the bodhisattva of the future, and some of the other bodhisattvas like Avalokiteshvara, Manjushri, who have made that fixed, determinate resolution to attain Buddhahood, that have compassion for the world, rejoice in their merits, bring to mind the great disciples of the Buddha, Sariputta, Moggallana, Kema, Upalabandha, Mahapajapati, and the great monastic disciples, the great lay disciples, and the streams of Dhamma transmission, all those who have preserved, practiced, realized, and transmitted the Dharma down to the present time, rejoicing in their merits and virtues. And then think of all people at present who might be engaging in any kind of good, wholesome activities, whether they be religious activities or secular activities. I often think of people like the doctors and the Doctors Without Borders who go to war-torn areas to offer their services. Journalists who put themselves, go to dangerous areas to capture and report the truth. People in all fields of humanitarian service, including all of our partners in the work of Buddhist Global Relief. And then we rejoice in their merits and virtues. So just do this quietly for a minute or so, in whatever way you can imagine. Okay, now the third practice is sharing your own merits with others. And so in this case, you reflect on any kind of meritorious deeds you might have performed, from taking the three refuges, observing the five precepts, your devotional practices, your practices of meditation, whatever qualities of loving kindness, compassion you might have been developing, any kind of philanthropic, humanitarian activities in which you've engaged, even if its merit or virtue is tiny as a speck of dust, but you bring it to mind just as if it were a little flame of a candle, bringing it into a dark room and illuminating the whole room. So you invite all the beings throughout this universe, including the Dhamma protecting devas, all of the other beings in the spirit world, your own maybe departed parents, relatives, friends who have passed away, and you mentally invite them to rejoice in your merits and virtues, and thereby to share in those merits and virtues. And they even more widely, you invite all beings in all the different realms of existence, whoever is capable of witnessing your mental act of offering up the merits, invite them to rejoice in your merits and virtues and good qualities. Okay, now you can come back to your body in the sitting position and simply being mindful of the breathing, few rounds of mindful breathing. And then you can open your eyes and we'll start the rest of my session. Okay, so I think it was in the morning, I think I wanted to show you one real example of human unity, which is taking place in a very, very powerful way right now. Aya, I think it was Aya Ananda Bodhi mentioned this in the morning. It's the monks engaged in this walk for peace, starting from Fort Worth, Texas. They've been walking towards Washington, D.C., passing through the southern states. Going from Fort Worth, they went down to Houston, then through Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia. I think now they're in South Carolina. Like they have a Facebook page, and I just wanted to share some of the photos. Do I have that privilege? The sharing? Yeah, I do. Okay. Right. Yeah, I could do it. So it's really remarkable. So, each day I look at some of the grim, stark, alarming, depressing, disturbing news. And then to brighten my mind, I go to this Facebook page to see the images. Is it appearing? Is it shared?
Yes, Bante.
Yeah. Uh, So these are just a selection of the photos. Let's see what direction we're moving. And when they're walking, there's about I think 16 monks, and they're accompanied by the temple dog, which has the name Aloka. Aloka means light. And they apparently some of them had been traveling in India, and the group of dogs was they were walking through India. A group of dogs was walking along with them, and all of the other dogs fell away, but this one dog continued to follow them. And so they decided to take the dog back with them to the United States. And so they have it in their temple in Texas. And the dog, Aloka, has been walking with them on this long journey of so far they've probably covered the whole journey will be 2,300 miles. Perhaps they've covered about 1,300 miles so far. Yeah, so every place they stop, I wanted to get pictures of the gatherings. Let me see what direction we're going. People come, they line whenever they're coming to a town or city, people line the streets offering them gifts. And then when they stop for the lunch break in the evening, people come to make offerings of food to them. And they give a little discourse at lunchtime and hold a gathering in the evening. Yeah. So this is one of the evening gatherings. This must be probably still in Georgia. And these are people, probably 98% of them are not from Buddhist backgrounds, but people who've just living in these towns, heard about their walk, and very excitedly when they hear that the monks are coming to their town or city, they all congregate at the place where the monks are going to be holding their either their lunch break or their evening gathering. And I think that they must have the Facebook page probably now perhaps has close to 1 million. The last I checked it, about 500,000 followers, but probably by now the number might have gone close to 1 million. And the dog has its own Facebook page, Aloka the Peace Dog, with about 500,000 followers. Another meeting, this was December 29th. So amidst all of the dark, depressing news, there's some bright reason for brightness, for cheerfulness, for joy. I see somebody, Rashika, you raising your hand?
Yeah, I hope it's okay.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
If people believe, I think it's in the mind training how you can know a wise person by their actions. Like if you don't believe that silence and just simple actions be powerful. My cousin lives in Georgia, in Peachtree, and she met them. And my cousin is strict Christian. Like I made a mistake and meditated in front of her 7-year-old son, and he tried to teach his playmates at school, and she yelled at me. She was like, "How dare you?" But when she met them, she cried.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. People are crying. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And they told her thank you, and she called me. She's like, "I'm confused. Why are they thanking me? They're walking for me." And I was just like, she even attended a Dharma talk, and she loved their dog. And for the first time ever, I was able to broach the subject of, hey, I want to become a monastic. She's like, I'm not gonna like it, but uh, I might be able to work with it. So just these men that she knew nothing about, and now she's calling me, asking me about Buddhism. I'm like, hey, I'm not an expert. But she was totally stumped. She's like, why did they get me? But I
Why
see
did
what
they
you can
what?
say,
Why
and
did
I
they
have
what?
video, huh?
You said, why did they what?
She said, why did they tell her thank you? She said, you're walking for my benefit. She said, why are you She was so
Mm,
confused. She called
mm,
me, but she was
mm.
in tears. And
Yeah,
then
yeah,
she
yeah.
donated dog clothes to,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah.
You see people come in buses to meet them, where they line the streets waiting for them to walk by. I hear they're coming from Georgia. They're entering South Carolina. Yeah, that was a nice photo. The sheriff is hugging. Okay, so I just wanted to show you that there are really balls of light and brightness that are actively embodying and promoting this ideal of human unity, bringing together people from all walks of life. But we should say that the monks have also met some resistance and opposition. Fortunately, it's been nonviolent as far as I know, but some opposition from some of the more rigid fundamentalist Christians who have accused them of leading the people down the pathway to hell. But they've continued walking peacefully and gently without being deterred or discouraged. Okay, so now I'll give a little talk. And I was actually struggling. I was the one who proposed this topic of affirming and promoting human unity. But as I've been thinking about the topic over the course of the last few days, I've actually been struggling with it to some extent. Keep on losing my notes. Okay. Because I don't think we can settle in for what I would call a is it the expression milk toast Disneyland version of human unity, kind of Mickey Mouse version of human unity, where we're all in this together. All we have to do is hold hands and dance around the maypole. Because at present, human civilization is in an escalating crisis, or actually a polycrisis, a multitude of crises, intersecting, interwoven network of crises. And I say that all of these crises develop out of two alternative visions of human nature and of our human obligations in life on this planet. One of these visions holds that in essence, we are isolated individuals, personalized atoms, each enclosed upon ourselves, that we're each locked in an inescapable struggle against others. Each of us is pitted against everyone else in a contest for dominance, for supremacy, in a struggle to gain power over others. And so this means, from this point of view, that every day throughout our lives, we have to be competitive. So that's one of the key words of our culture. We have to be ready to compete against others. And so when we're young, we have to acquire the skills, the education, the knowledge, the credentials that'll enable us to triumph in this struggle for dominance. And then when we're adults, then we have to put our skills and our knowledge to work to ensure that we come out on top, that we become the alpha male, the most capable, the most beautiful woman, and so forth. And if we don't prevail, then we risk falling back into the nameless multitude, that we become a nobody, a nebbish. And if we stumble, then we become losers, suckers, failures, worthless in the eyes of others, worthless in our own eyes. So within this framework, we see others as our rivals. Everybody is out to get ahead. And if we let down our guard, others are going to get ahead of us, to steal our place, to step into the spotlight, and to push us off the stage, leaving us behind in the dust. And so many people want to become influencers, to become popular stars on on Facebook or other social media platforms, YouTube, with many followers and so forth. And from this angle, wisdom means the ability to use our intelligence and our skills to outwit others, to rise to the top, to dominate others in order to increase our own wealth, power, prestige, and position. And the ethical imperative that arises from this way of thinking holds that our primary obligation in life is to ourselves, to pursue our own self-interest. And this might be justified by the claim that when everybody pursues their own self-interest, that is going to lead to the greatest good of all. That will benefit everyone. Of course, that isn't true, because this framework, as we see in the world today, it leads to expanding inequalities of wealth and income, to glaring differences in power, and it threatens to undermine the democratic norms of government and all of the established institutions that preserve some kind of stability in the human community. And once this framework becomes dominant, then it tends to oligarchy, is controlled by the wealthy, to plutocracy, where the wealthy actually get in and control the government. And at its furthest extreme, it results in fascism, which we see as a rising tide in the world today, and very, very sadly to say, in this country itself. And so this, I don't know how to neatly characterize fascism, but it seems to be a system whereby a small, dominant, dominant elite clustered around a forceful or a charismatic leader seeks to solidify its grip on power, doing so by fostering fantasies about some glorious past where everything was flourishing, and especially and most worrisome, whipping up waves of hatred against marginalized groups, against ethnic minorities, immigrants, which we see in this country today, against people who are outside the uh, binary gender identities, people with different sexual orientations, people with physical disabilities or people who are in some way outside those special privileged circles. And this competitive view of human society, or this atomistic view of personal identity, has implications for the nature of government. Sometimes it's said that monks should not speak about anything about politics, but to me, in my understanding, when we speak about politics, it's not to promote one party at the expense of others, but because politics has extremely important ethical implications, determining who's going to eat, who's going to go hungry, who's going to get medical care, who's going to be left out in the cold, who will have a home in which to live, who will be thrown out in the streets to live in homelessness, maybe who will live, who will die. And so we really, as people of conscience, have to look into the nature of government. And from this competitive view of human nature, this implies that the primary task of government is to preserve law and order, to preserve the order that allows the dominant elite to maintain its grip on power and to continue its quest to increase its wealth and power. And this means that the government is entitled to use all of the means at its disposal to crush dissent, to take action against the marginalized groups, the minorities, the immigrants, people with different gender or sexual orientations, to do anything to suppress challenges to to its domination of the political and economic system. So that is one view of human nature and of our collective existence. There is an alternative view, and we usually describe this alternative framework by emphasizing the principles of interconnectedness and interdependence. But I want to approach it from a somewhat different angle, a different starting point. And what I would say is that this alternative view actually begins not from interconnectedness and interdependence, but from the recognition that each person is a center of subjective experience. Now, that might sound a little bit abstract, maybe very abstract. My background before I became a monk was in philosophy, so tend to use philosophical language. So let's say what I mean by this. What do we mean when I say that a person is a center of subjective experience? So by this, I mean that at the core of our being, there is a consciousness that internally has deep interior roots that goes back to unfathomable depths, and outwardly a consciousness that reflects the entire universe. And to see what I mean when I say that the consciousness reflects the entire universe, I want to suggest a little thought experiment that we can't do right now. But suppose on a clear night, you're out in the countryside, far from the city, and you out, look up at the sky, and you can see hundreds of stars, thousands of stars. And maybe if you know a little bit about astronomy, you'll know that some of the bodies that you're seeing out up in the sky are actually not stars, but even distant galaxies. And from this, you see that it is your consciousness which is reflecting, absorbing all of those stars. That entire skyscape is embedded within your consciousness. And from this, you can see and understand that this entire universe, even extending out to infinity, is reflected in our consciousness. So that for each one of us, our consciousness reflects the entire world, the whole universe. And in fact, we can't even speak of a world, of a universe, apart from a world, apart from a universe, which is reflected in consciousness, which doesn't, that doesn't mean that the external material world isn't real, that it's just a projection of the mind, but the world is always a world which is seen from the perspective of consciousness, so that each person, even each sentient being, offers a unique perspective on the world, so that each person, even each sentient being, is an embodiment of the world, an incarnation of the entire universe. We know that, scientifically, physically, that our bodies, our own physical bodies, contain the entire history of the universe, or at least of this cosmic cycle, beginning from the Big Bang onward through the entire course of biological evolution, so that all of that is embedded within the chemical makeup of our bodies and in the DNA of our genes. And psychologically, this from the Buddhist perspective, our minds contain, sort of causally, contain the seeds of countless previous lives, lives spent in this world, in other world systems, through beginningless time. And in their present immediacy, as I said, our minds reflect the whole universe just in the way it reflects the objects in front of it. Now, since each person is a center of subjective experience, it follows from this, maybe this is a jump, but I think it's a jump that can be seen to follow, that each person has intrinsic value, that each person possesses some kind of inherent dignity that can never be abolished and that should never be violated. So that is sort of the basis, I would say, for the principle that one should not kill, should not destroy life, not to kill any form of sentient life, but especially not to destroy human life, because each human being is an embodiment and a reflection of the whole. But now comes the rather sad reflection that even though each person has inherent dignity, in real life, in our present social and economic and political system, large numbers of people, vast numbers of people in the and around the world, probably the vast majority of people lack the means of turning their intrinsic dignity into what I would call realized or fulfilled dignity. That is the ability to live life with the sense, with the recognition of one's own dignity. For that to be possible, what does one need? One needs some kind of satisfactory economic status, at least freedom from poverty, freedom from the fear of economic collapse, of falling into destitution through a medical emergency, loss of a job, loss of some source of income. One requires a secure social status, freedom from being discriminated against because of one's race, ethnicity, religion, gender, civil status, and so on. One needs meaningful and fulfilling work, the ability to contribute to one's community. One should be able to enjoy certain political rights, above all, in this country and democracies, the right to vote and to express oneself freely without fear of punishment, penalization. And so when we take this point of view, instead of seeing us as isolated individuals engaged in this struggle for domination, we see that we are intersecting centers of subjective experience, that I am a subject in myself, each of you is a subject, but our subjectivities intersect so that we live in an intersubjective world, a shared subjectivity, so that we are interdependent and interconnected, joined in this complex web of reciprocity. And so we're bound together inevitably in some kind of community, but our project as centers of subjective experience should be to form what has been called the beloved community. That is a community in which everyone is able to flourish, in it which everyone has the ability to realize, to fulfill their intrinsic dignity, to live a life of meaning, value, by which they can contribute to their family, their community, their society, to their country, freely, without fear of penalization, oppression, subjugation, domination by others. And now I come to our present situation right here in the United States and really all around the world. We are facing a contest between these two models, these two visions of human presence on this earth. On one side, there is the model of individualistic atomism, which sees people as competitors in this battle for supremacy. And on the other is the alternative model, which sees us as interconnected, interwoven subjects bound together in this web of mutuality, reciprocity. The ethic that follows from this second model gives priority to such values as solidarity. We're all in this together. Empathy, that we can each recognize the subjective reality of others and feel along with others for their well-being, for their suffering. And when we feel with the suffering of others, that gives rise not to a sense of glee and dominance, but the sense of compassion and the motivation to help others, to uplift those who have fallen into suffering. And we have to do this not only in our individual capacity, not only in small social circles, but we also have to do this in our largest collective manifestations. And at the country level, That is through our government. And so instead of seeing government the way the competitive model sees government, the task of government is to preserve law and order to enable the dominant to escalate their dominance. This vision sees government to be the expression of our collective will, and the task of government, which is so beautifully expressed in the preamble of the American Constitution, is to establish justice and to promote the general welfare. So that is the model sort of already envisaged by the founding fathers of the United States, though embedded or embodied very imperfectly in the Constitution and in the early models of government. But this was a model that was accelerated after the Great Depression by the Franklin Delano Roosevelt's New Deal, the idea that government should not just stand back and let business carry on according to its own dictates, to its own momentum, but it's part of the task of government to regulate business, to provide a social safety net, a very strong social safety net, that the government is entitled to tax the wealthy and corporations in order to generate the revenue that's needed to promote the general welfare. This is also the model that after the Second World War was sort of brought to fulfillment with the creation of the United Nations, again, very imperfectly in the Constitution of the United Nations. It was expressed in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights.
Perfect. I want to use out of that.
Yeah, I have to ask people who are
She's
online.
muted.
Yeah, okay, yeah. Yeah, so this was the model that came to expression in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, in the UN's Millennium Goals, and now embodied again in the Sustainable Development Goals. And I would certainly say that this is the model that we to pursue through the work of Buddhist Global Relief, part of our vision, the vision statement and our mission statement. And even though this country and the world has been far from perfect in fulfilling the ideals set up by these institutions and documents, but until fairly recently, we seem to be moving in that direction with a lot of sidetracks, deviation, backsliding. But now, very, very worrisomely, we are in danger not merely of backsliding, not merely of taking a few steps backward, but really of falling into what I call the abyss of moral nihilism, the gulf of increasing authoritarianism, autocracy, even of falling under the shadow of fascism. And we've seen just this past year too many signs of this. Just over the past year, and I don't want to make people feel worried and grim and anxious, but I think we really have to look very, very honestly at our situation. We've seen sweeping attacks on people because of the colors of their skins, because of their place of origin, the language they're speaking, their gender identity, attacks, especially very vicious attacks on trans people, on immigrants. We've seen fathers arrested at work, deported to countries with which they have no connection, stuffed into overcrowded prisons where they've tortured. We see ICE agents out on the streets, tearing mothers away from their children, even attacking cities, and just a few days ago, killing an observer, a woman who was observing, as probably all of you know. Foreign students at top universities have been arrested for criticizing US policy. Some of them, especially the Palestinian students who have been objecting to US support for Israel's campaign of extermination in Gaza, have been arrested, including my friend Mohsen Madhavi, a Palestinian Buddhist who had been the president of the Columbia University Buddhist Association. And then the US also has been deliberately, even viciously abandoning its role. I know I'm going a little bit over the time limit, but I feel that I have to say this, has been abandoning its role of moral leadership in the world. Within weeks of the new administration coming in, the US withdrew from the Paris Climate Accord, exited the Human Rights Council, the World Health Organization. We almost abolished USAID, the Agency for International Development, which was saving hundreds of thousands of lives every year. Each of these steps alone was shocking in itself, but for all of them to come so close together, it's really like an abdication of our moral leadership in the world. But when I say this, again, it's not to try to generate a mood of depression and dejection amongst the people here, because I always think that we shouldn't lose hope, but we also have to recognize that hope should not be just a passive mood, but hope should be something that motivates us to act. And we have to remember that millions of people around the world are with us, that millions in this country share our values and our ideals. And that faith, that hope should motivate us to join hands with others and do whatever we can to push to create a more just, more equitable, a more democratic country, a more peaceful world, a world that will be committed, I also have to say, to the objective truths of science. One of the most worrisome features about the present administration is a rejection of hard factual science, climate science, medical science, leading to endangerment of many hundreds and thousands, even millions of people, including children in this country, will not be getting the vaccinations they need to protect them from dangerous diseases. Fidelity to the climate science that tells us that we have to make the shift from fossil fuels to clean sources of energy, renewable sources of energy. And so we have to use this is why I use the expression conscientious compassion, not simply beautiful, uplifting compassion of the heart, but conscientious compassion is that expression of compassion that flows from the sense of human unity and that motivates us to strive and make the effort to realize human unity in practice by transforming our country, our societies, our communities even our world. Okay, so maybe that will do for my basic presentation. And maybe should we take a little breather? I don't know if some people, could we go a little bit over our time limit so we could have like 10 minutes for questions and then 15 minutes to wrap up? Or does that conflict with anybody's schedule?
All good, Bante. We are good.
Okay. Okay, so if any questions, the way you could, or questions or comments, the way to do that is by clicking that hand symbol. Okay, so I just say, I think it did, Rashika, did you put your hand symbol up again? Oh, it seemed that she didn't have a question. Oh, Gita, I think, Gita, do you have a hand? Okay, Gita, okay. You have to unmute.
First of all, thank you, Bante, BGR, all the Ayas, Bhikkuhinis, everybody. This has been a wonderful retreat. Thank you, Bante Bodhi, sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Bante, I agree with everything you've said. And I know that in the Buddha's time too,
Yeah,
there were wars. And I remember 3 times Kapilavastu was going to be attacked, his hometown. And finally he went back, using his idi powers and saw that there was some karmas that created, and he let the war unfold, and
yeah,
they kind of wiped out Kapilavastu, the people who
no,
were there. So what can we do? Like in this case, we see what's happening, but if someone speaks up, they're arrested, thrown in jail, sent to countries that they have nothing to do with. So everybody is deadly scared. So even if we act as a group, the ICE people come, and it's so painful to watch for the all of the world to see this.
yeah,
It's happening
yeah,
everywhere.
yeah. One has to take action, but one has to do it in a very skillful, controlled way. Because I have to say rather sadly that especially these flooding the cities with the ICE agents, armed agents in a very volatile situation, where if you provoke them a little bit, they can say, we feel endangered, we're going to shoot in order to protect ourselves, the way what happened the other day, just a couple of days
Exactly.
ago. Yeah. So one has to, I say we have to stand up to resist, to oppose, to have the courage, determination to do so, but to do so in a concerted and skillful way.
Because
And
even the
though,
government agencies are scared, Bante. Like there's no law and order. Like they have appointed their own party, even in the
yeah,
Supreme Court.
yeah, that
Roe
is,
v. versus Wade.
yeah, that's
It's so
why
sad.
it's in this country, it's very sad to say, it's by going to take, I know some people get angry with me when I speak anything that has to do with politics and say,
Be
you're a
careful,
monk, you
Bante.
shouldn't say anything about
Be
politics.
careful, Bante.
But it's not that I play Democrats against Republicans or Republicans
No.
against Democrats. But we have to say that we need a government that is truly going to be a benign, benevolent government committed to the well-being of the
Yes.
people, not a
Yes.
government which treats the whole nation as just a bundle of resources to expropriated and appropriated to enhance not only the country but the world, a source of resources. Be careful, Greenland, a source of resources to be exploited and appropriated to
Mhm.
enhance their own wealth and power. So that's why we have to be politically literate, well informed, and disciplined.
Yes,
to
Bhante.
bring
Thank you,
in
Bhante. Thank you
those
for your
government.
courage.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, now Rashika, did you have your hand again? Okay, then you unmute. You know how to do that.
You can.
Okay, I
Okay,
just
okay,
got the ability to do it.
okay.
But this is just my thoughts. Um, I don't think we're gonna fix these problems. Because I think this world will end kind of like others, but just because you know someone's dying of cancer doesn't mean you still don't try to treat them. I think
Yeah,
we talked about it at the Abbey, people getting hooked, too hooked in the result.
yeah,
I mean, yeah, like, oh, this won't yield a result. But there's even something in Judaism. It says you save one person, you save the whole world. You helping that one person meant everything to them, and there's no way you can not know the trickle effect. But I
yeah,
think because I used to go to a lot of protests, I'm with what is it, Jewish Voice for Peace.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
But my capacity, I feel, has shifted. So now I work at one of the food banks. I
yeah,
think you just give in whatever way you
yeah,
can.
yeah.
And as far as ICE, the way we are deal with it, and I love this because it really has hurt a lot of our community that are afraid to leave the home to come get food. But if we see
Mhm.
ICE agents,
Yeah.
we are allowed to yell, and we yell to everybody what rights are. And
You
Seattle,
will what?
we yell what people's rights are. We have people that
Okay.
speak
Yeah,
different languages, and we're
yeah,
allowed to just yell.
yeah,
And Seattle put this in place where the sheriff has to come and let ICE in. And what the sheriff does is make that his last trip of the day. And
yeah,
last time he came, it was midnight, and the food bank closes at 4.
yeah, yeah,
He's like, I'll let you in now.
yeah,
So
yeah.
just,
Okay.
yeah, but
Yeah,
I don't know. Humans, yeah.
yeah. We can never make this world perfect. I mean, I completely agree with that. But we can make little progress, slow, gradual, always imperfect, but we always have to sort of move towards that ideal and not let what I call that other sort of worldview, the view of competitive individualism, gain gain dominance and become the paradigm from which we operate, because that brings the destruction of all of us. In fact, it will, as long as these withdrawing from all of these climate accords, scientific research, cutting scientific research, it's going to have disastrous effects. Okay, so is this Xiaolan? Yeah, please, you should be able to unmute.
Okay. Uh, so first of all, thank you very much, Pandey. I really appreciate you speaking about these things that are very real and lots of Buddhist teachers avoid speaking about them. And
This is why I get in trouble. I get a lot of trouble.
it frustrates me to no end when Buddhist teachers talk as if you just meditate more, things will be fine. Um, and secondly, I want to offer a little bit thought, I guess thought experiment, because given human history around the globe, probably all of us have ancestors who live under extreme authoritarian regimes. And so our ancestors survived. We are a product of our
Mm.
ancestors who managed, and so we can carry out our ancestors' spirit and manage this. And one thing that kind of connects from this afternoon's talk to the exercise you led about repentance and this current topic, um, I teach at a Catholic university. I
Mm.
teach Buddhism to Catholic students, and very often I feel this interesting situation where they process everything through the lens of sin.
Mhm.
So if like I could be talking about anger, like how Buddhism
Yeah.
sees anger, analyze anger pretty much in the same way Venerable Monan said this afternoon, and somehow students perceive that as sin.
Yeah.
Right? And it's like, and then I realized basically the fundamental problem is the really complete binary thinking. It's either
Yeah.
this or that, right? It's
Yeah.
100% or it's zero. There's never middle. It's like we're not talking about if you get angry, that means you are sinful and you deserve to go to hell. It's it's not that kind of situation.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it very often takes me a long time to explain to them that's not what I mean.
Yeah.
Like I
Yeah.
could be talking about like genuine loving kindness, and then they just jump to oh, if you don't reach that point, that means you're bad. That's not what I said. I didn't say it's bad. Um, and so and I think relating that to what we were talking about, like what can we do and activism and all that,
Mm.
I think one of the things we need to bear in mind is that it we're not going to overhaul it right away, right? It's like
Yeah.
every minute effort
Yeah.
that helps somebody. If we
Yeah.
do it collectively, that can change the
Yeah.
tide.
Yeah.
But we need to be able to tolerate there's a gradation of things, and it's not 100 or zero. It's not like we are going to change people's mind and then tomorrow everything will be fine. It's never going to be like that.
Yeah. Of course. Yeah. 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 Of course, it's always going to be incremental, gradual change, but we have to push the change in a positive direction. And we seemed, as I said, in the 1960s, late 1960s, 1970s, we seemed to be moving in that direction. And then in this country, and even in the late 1980s, with the fall of the Soviet Union, it seemed that of Eastern Europe getting free, things seemed to be opening up. And now over the especially with the onset of the 21st century, there's been a backtracking and backsliding in various ways. And again, I'm not supposed to speak anything with political overtones, but over the last since roughly 2017 in this country, there's been a lot of backsliding. Okay, one more comment, then we'll have to end. So this will be Nina. You have to unmute.
Thank you so much, Bante, for talking truth. And I have been, of course, thinking about it. I'm here in Puerto Rico and have heard the planes go over when they were on their way to Venezuela.
Wow, wow, yeah.
Because we're very near the base where they're
Yeah,
situated.
yeah.
And what I've come in the last few days also thinking about, and as part of your talk, when you talked about dignity, we have to have we have a dignity within
Yeah,
us.
yeah.
That I want to practice noble defiance,
Hmm.
and that's just something that I felt that was coming out of your talk also.
Yeah.
And I certainly appreciate that. I wanted to share that with the sound of noble defiance is what I
That's a
mean.
very good expression.
Yes, thank you.
I have to think of the Pali equivalent. Area. I have to find the word for defiance. Okay, I think what we should do, we'll have to really end the comment and question session. Maybe should we just take, before we have the concluding reflections, like 2 minutes of just quiet, mindful breathing? No guidance, just everybody just do mindful breathing. And I will strike the bell. We'll just do it 1 minute. Maybe Ayadama or Roshi Dhammadeepa, you have a bell, a little bell by your side?
Yes, I have my Takahatsu bell here. Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so give 1 minute of just mindful breathing. Let people sort of collect themselves. Then we'll have the concluding reflections.
Okay.
Okay, so now we're going to end with some concluding. Everybody will have just a couple of minutes to provide some concluding reflections. Wow, I didn't put a list. I see. I just have. Did we have a list of the people to the order for giving the concluding reflections?
No, we
No
didn't,
order.
Okay,
Bhante.
so let's just go through the order in which we had the presentations today. So first, I think Roshi Dhammadeepa, you spoke first, right?
Yes.
So you can go first, and Aya Ananda Bodhi will go first. Then I think Trupten Lapsel went, and then Trupten Munnam, and then I will go.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, Bhante. So that was a very, very powerful talk. And to speak after that, I think I want to really acknowledge and reinforce this idea that each of us, each individual has a boundless mind, and that we have an individual karmic constitution or karmic constellation, a unique one, each one of us, my master, my Zen master, ordination master used to say there are as many minds as there are people. I would say there are as many minds as there are moments, but certainly we we have that experience of we can have that experience of the boundlessness of the mind and its ability to demonstrate the truths of all things and the nature of experience as a whole. And just reflecting back a little bit on, again, the Atadanda Sutta, and always the Buddha reminding us to start here where we are, to begin to understand that mind, to really deeply delve into our experience and to see our own fear and anger and reactivity, our own way of perceiving divisiveness and discord in the world and how we are reacting to that. So I really want to say that I hope that I and each one of us will really take up that not even invitation or request, but that demand, if you will, that the path makes of us to really to attend to that and to see that we can work with our own, the dart in the heart, we can work with our own alarm and fear and sadness and also being drawn by bliss and idealism and many other beautiful things. And we don't stop there, as the discourse also says, leaving behind divisive speech, but continuing speech, meaning that we also recognize that others have that same capacity and have, indeed, it's important for us to stay in dialogue and in conversation with everyone, not to close the doors. And it's those, I'm reminded, I'll tell very briefly of the story, or maybe just in a couple of sentences, of the story of the rabbi who would receive hate calls from the Grand Dragon of the Ku Klux Klan of his local town. And his response to the call, he would say to the man, there's a lot of love in the world and you're not getting any. So his approach was a good example of what I would call the way that we can also express the drawbacks and the dangers, that we use our voices and our understanding of dukkha in ourselves and in others as a way to also bring that wisdom to our interactions and to be that voice of calling out the harm, but in ways that are wise and in ways that help us to really find more connection. Because ultimately, I think what the Dhamma is telling us, and what the Buddha has told us time and time again, is that when we see the dangers of unwholesome states and we see the dangers of this kind of harm that is echoing in the world, with clarity and with a sense of our role in it, our place in it, our integration with all of it, then we will also move toward cessation. We will also move away from those dangers, and we'll learn to take a different tactic. So I guess my closing reflection is really recognizing our capacity for our own transformation and for the transformation of others. And by means of that, one by one, millions and millions can really make a difference and make a change in this world. So thank you all for being part of those millions.
Thank you, Dhamma.
Aya Ananda Buddhi.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to speak after that. It's very rousing and powerful reflection.
No, just speak from your heart, yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I appreciate I appreciate your boldness, Bante, and I feel like it really comes from a deep care for beings, and probably not terribly comfortable for you because I'm sure you get a lot of pushback too. So yeah, I feel a real rest with that, and I'm very aware of the. I guess I'm not a very political person, but I see the goodness in people and the potential that human beings have, and then I see there's the forces of greed and hatred and ignorance that overwhelm and puff up and destroy so much. So I guess I see it more like that, and what I really appreciate is that there are these opportunities to actively do good in the world, and I feel like Buddhist Global Relief, on many levels, provides that for many people to do good. It's like it's a tiny drop and a huge ripple at the same time. And I feel like it's sort of in your rousing talk. It also points to like we all have power. Human beings, like every human being has power and agency, and I think there's a very big danger of people becoming apathetic and hopeless and just giving up power. And this is also why I like you. I look at these Walk for Peace monks, and I just feel so uplifted and energized and aroused by that, because they're walking that truth that we all have power. You don't have to have all the perfect conditions. You don't have to be in a safe environment. It's like we have power as individual human beings, and we can. And when it's really aligned with what is true and noble, it brings people together. So today, I think there were thousands of people gathered in South Carolina to hear them speak in the afternoon, in the daytime.
They're still in South Carolina, then.
Yeah, they're in South Carolina. Huge gathering.
Yeah.
It's very inspiring.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Because of and also listening to Bhante Panikkara, the leading monk
Yeah,
of
yeah.
this walk. He always speaks from a very pure place. It's
Yeah,
always
yeah, yeah.
it's not no proselytizing, no
Yeah,
blaming.
yeah.
It's just pure
Yeah.
kindness, peace, compassion. We can do this. You can do this. This is possible. And that's really inspires me. And I feel, and I'm aware that we're in very challenging times right now. And so I guess my closing remarks are both thank you to BGR for all you do, every one of you, everything that you do to bring good into the world and to benefit beings, and to remind everyone that you have power too when you align with what is true and noble and good, which is just in your heart. You don't have to be perfect. That you also are part of can be part of the transformation and goodness of this world. We all can. So I think those are my closing remarks. And just thank you, Kim and Bante and George and Patricia and Trisha and everyone who's part of BGR for giving all these opportunities. Yeah. So that's my offering.
Okay, then I think Venerable said lump cell comes next.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, flowing on from what Ayananda Bodhi just said, just sitting with the power that we each have as individuals, and that what we do, say, and think matters. From those leading the Peace Walk to setting up BGR to this one talk here, bringing us very present with what is happening in this country, in this world right now. So then bringing that right back home to see that what we as individuals do matters day by day, how we interact with our family, our colleagues, our friends, our community, and what we do from there. And really making this determination to move from a place grounded in refuge and ethics with this intention to be a benefit, to do no harm and accomplish the greatest good. And what one verse from Shantideva's text that we regularly recite here is, as long as space remains, as long as sentient beings remain, until then may I too abide to dispel the misery of the world. So to have that really far-reaching attitude in mind, to keep the vision very vast, but to bring it to life in the very small moments.
Yeah.
I've really been rejoicing at seeing this really consistent group that has showed up all day long, that was inspired by this theme of healing the divisions in the world. And so I just really want to recognize the aspiration that we all have to be part of this this perspective, like Bhante, you were talking about, of seeing our interconnectedness, and that when the whole, when everybody has these basic needs met, and when everybody is able to thrive, that's providing these conducive circumstances for us all to be able to live a good life. And when we're thinking more individualistic, this is, really a mindset that is thinking there's not enough for everybody, so I need to get what I can get for myself. And how, everybody here to really honor this aspiration that we have to contribute to the greater good, in whatever ways that we can. And I loved that expression that Nina was talking about at the end, this noble defiance. And what I thought about when you said this was this commitment to ethical conduct, to, defy the current, the river that's pushing us to act in harmful ways, because we see so many harmful actions around us. But instead to stand really firm and not return harm with harm, and to not return critical words with critical words, but to really, defy this individualistic perspective that is so powerful and so strong right now, with a commitment to ethical conduct. And this is something that we can all do every single day. And this is what the Buddha taught as the pathway to lasting happiness and peace. And so I'm just so glad that we've been able to share this time together, and really just rejoice in all of our good hearts and aspirations for harmony in this chaotic world.
Okay, so to conclude, what I want to do, rather than offer some final reflection, is to do like a grand sort of anumodana and dedication of merits. So I think we all have to sort of express our anumodana appreciation for all of the effort and work that the BGR team has put in, both to organizing this particular retreat, but also the work that the whole BGR team has done through this past year, 2025, and from our origins in 2008, starting with a meeting at Bodhi Monastery, June 2008, up to the present, and then starting with 3 small pilot projects for about $3,000 each, about $10,000 on projects. Now having 60 projects around the world, with partners ranging in countries ranging from Mongolia, Vietnam, Cambodia, Thailand, Sri Lanka, India, Uganda, Cote d'Ivoire, Malawi, Nicaragua, Peru, Haiti, United States. So think of all of the benefits that the work of BGR is conferring upon thousands and thousands of people around the world. And all of this is coming through the work of a small team of people working together with our partners. And so let us all rejoice in the merits of the work of the team of Buddhist Global Relief. And also everybody rejoice in what we've accomplished today, having this program where we've had meditations, Dharma talks, reflections, and so forth. And so we gather up all of this sort of treasury of merits, gather it into our hearts and minds, rejoicing in the good qualities of all the members of the team, the teachers, the participants. And then we, in our minds and hearts, will share that merit with all sentient beings. And you could dedicate it to your parents if your parents have passed away, any other beloved relatives or friends who have passed away. And then share the merit with the Dhamma protecting devas, the nagas, the dragon spirits, and then with all sentient beings. And then I'll recite some standard verses in Pali for the sharing of the merits. Excuse me. Akasa, excuse me. Akasa, excuse, Akasa ta chabumata devanaga mahidika punyanta manumoditva chirangra kantu sasanang. Akasa ta chabumata devanaga mahidika punyanta manumoditva chirangra kantu desanang. Akasa ta chabumata devanaga mahidika punyanta manumoditva chirangra kantu mang parang. Dukkha patacha ni dukkha, bhaya patacha ni bhaya, soka patacha ni soka, antu sabbe pipani no. May those in suffering be free from suffering. May those in fear be free from fear. May those in sorrow be free from sorrow. May all living beings also be thus. And then we could end the whole program with 3 bows to the triple gem. 1, 2, 3. And thank you, everybody, for contributing, to teachers for contributing their thoughts, and the BGR team for their contribution, and to all the participants for joining us today.
Sadhu,
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 sadhu, sadhu, Bhante.
Sadhu, sadhu.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Bhante.
Roshi,
Thank you, Bhante.
Aya, the
Thank you so
Venerable,
much.
our team, and all Dharma friends. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Thank you for the
Thank you
kind.
Thank
to
you,
all the
Bhante.
venerable.
Thank
Thank you to
you.
all
Thank
the
you.
venerable.
Thank
Thank you to all the
you.
venerable.
Thank you,
Sadhu,
everyone.
sadhu.
Thank
you,
you.
Bhante. Thank
Thank
you,
you
Thank you,
all.
BGR. Thank you for the
Thank you for
opportunity.
the
Thank you
loving.
for all
You,
your
my
hard
friends
work.
from BGR.
Sarvan Sarnam Bhante. Namo
Mucho
Buddhaya.
Bhante.
Be well, Bhante. Be safe.
Thanks,
Okay.
Bhante.
Okay.
Thank
Bhante,
you,
be safe
Bhante.
also.
Have a good day. Have a good day.